Hey everyone, this is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here in NBC Charlotte in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, the storm that I've been talking about since last Saturday when I wrote a blog piece about wish casting versus forecasting is starting to get a little better organized, and I have a little better idea on what's gonna happen here in the next couple of days. We're talking Wednesday to Thursday now. This is a midweek storm for the southeast. Now, if you didn't read my blog, please go to wxbrad.com. Read the wish casting versus forecasting blog. It's very important because a lot of the stuff I've heard in the last 7 days has been really frustrating because you get people that look at just one model, a deterministic model at that, which is a snapshot in time, and they go crazy with one extreme. It's going to be 20 inches of snow. The next run it says 0. Well, there's no storm. It's done. Both ways are wrong, okay? You need to lay it down the middle and come up with the most probable forecast. Now, the pattern has always been there since Saturday. I said this last Saturday. There was going to be a storm somewhere in the southeastern U.S. I honestly had no idea where, how much snow, ice, whatever, but the pattern is there. We just don't know specifics 7, 10, 15 days out. And even here today, we're only 3 or 4 days out. The specifics are really hard to get a handle on, but the pattern has remained the same. There was going to be a storm in the southeast. So please, if you follow people on Facebook, Twitter, wherever your source of weather information, if they are bipolar forecasters, which means they go crazy with one model run and go nothing to the next, don't follow those people. I hate throwing people under the bus, but please, that is not the way you forecast the weather. And those people should honestly be ignored because you are going to be wrong more often than not. I don't know what's worse, the people that do that or the people that constantly share that information all over social media, which makes my job harder because that's what's so frustrating to me. Not that people are doing that so much, but then I have to answer for those people's forecasts. I have no idea. I'm not them. So please, I'm only accountable to me, my forecast. So let's get right to what's going on. Here in the southeast, we've got upper 40s to near 50 degrees, the warmest weather we've seen in 5 days. This is a really nice warm up. Why is it warming up? Because we've got an Arctic front sitting right in here that's diving down. When Arctic fronts come down, they pull up a lot of warm air ahead of them. So you always get a big surge of warm air before the Arctic front arrives. There's a 1040 millibar Arctic high sitting up over here in western Canada. And look at this cold air up here, minus 30-degree weather in the middle of the day. That's going to drop south over the next 24 hours. So let's start looking at some of the model data. The first model, again, these are deterministic models. I want to show you a little piece of everything, not get caught up in one run. This is the GFS from this morning, and if you look closely, you can see the Arctic front diving down. It's that line of red and blue. That's the 35 and 32 degree line. Look at the 1040 high centered over the Dakotas. Slowly moves to the southeast, and you can see by, we'll back this up to about Tuesday afternoon, we've got an Arctic high sitting right over the Ohio Valley, and notice we're already getting some override. So what's going on in the southeast is you have something we call a baroclinic zone. It's a very tight gradient of very cold air and warm air. And when that happens, you sometimes get an elongated trough area or low pressure to develop. But what's going to happen in this case is we got a little kicker system. You see this little thing coming out of Texas? This is a little piece of energy that finally made it through that ridge out west and is going to come in and help enhance this thing. And watch what happens as that hits the stalled Arctic front. You get overrunning along this. Now, overrunning is always tough. You never know how far back to the west the overrunning is going to occur. Typically, the models have a bad handle on this. And while we're all focused on snow, and people love snow, this could be a pretty significant icing event in some locations because remember, Arctic air is very dense and shallow. It's going to hug the ground, and if you get overrunning on top of it, there's going to be a corridor here along the coast that could be an epic ice storm, more so than an epic snowstorm. So don't discount the ice threat along these areas. Now, this is the GFS model. You can see, I'll put it out one more time. By Wednesday morning, we've got pretty heavy snow, interior sections of North and South Carolina into Georgia, all the way to New Orleans. You can see that the system kind of just sits there. Notice there's no distinct low. This is the thing about this. People always say, well, where's the low track? It's really not a low track in this case. It's wherever this boundary kind of sets up and you get the overrunning. It's a trough. And remember, a trough is just an elongated area of low pressure. It doesn't have to be a centered low pressure. And you can see as we go into Thursday, really cold air. This is the thing about Thursday. People say it's going to warm up. No, it ain't warming up Thursday, folks. Even if there's, especially if there's snow on the ground. So those people saying this rapid warm up, there is a warm up coming, but it's going to take a while. You just don't displace Arctic air in the snap of a finger, okay? By the time we get to the weekend, we start to see milder air. And I talked a little bit about this. I won't talk much on this, but the weekend system, this is Saturday morning early. It looks pretty mild, which means this is going to be rain or ice, because anytime you displace Arctic air, you get the overrunning issue again, and we may get a little wedge here in the Carolinas. And I would be a little bit worried about a little bit of icing, but right now it doesn't look like a big deal, and it does warm back into the 50s, maybe even close to 60 by Sunday and Monday, though I think that's going to be hard-pressed to happen right away. And again, that's not a big pattern change, because that looks short-lived. It looks like another surge of Arctic air might be trying to come down next week. So let's get into the snow totals, because this is what people want to look at. And again, you see these models posted all over online. This is the GFS model from this morning. Crazy amount of snow up and down the coast. Again, you're talking down here in the low country of South Carolina. I don't know, that's ridiculous amounts, like 17 inches of snow. I doubt that's going to happen, but just notice where that location is. Then let's take a look at the European. This is the European model. This isn't snow, but just kind of gives you an idea what the European does in this part of the country. Same kind of thing. We've got an overrunning event along the coast, and again, if there's going to be an error, I think some overrunning gets back to the west. We'll go out into the future there, and you can see it doesn't look very impressive there. Let's look at the snow totals from the European. Again, looks mostly coastal, but I do think there'll still be snow on the backside. The overrunning always overperforms. The one thing I'm always a fan of is ensemble forecasting. And this is the European model, 1-inch ensembles, which means 51 runs of the European take the average chance of snow, or the mean, and you can see these are percentages of 1-inch snowfall. From Charlotte east, it goes from about 20% and ramps up to about 70% along the coast. Chances of 3 inches, you could see along the coast, chances of 6 inches, and chances of a foot. Pretty amazing. So while Charlotte doesn't look like it's going to get a lot, it's still in the probability of a foot, because that's kind of the error in the model range. Big fan of deterministic, of probabilistic models over deterministic. And one of the things I look at quite a bit is the European ensembles. And you can see the 51 runs of this model. These are the horizontal lines. 15 of them right now have snow in Charlotte on Wednesday to Thursday. That's about 30% of them. That's kind of my threshold, my personal rule. 30% of the ensembles have it. I'm probably going to talk about it. Below it, and maybe not as much. So when you look at the Schreff model, which is essentially the short range ensemble version of the GFS, this is for Charlotte. Notice the mean is about 3 inches, but notice these huge amounts, and this is why you always have to be careful. These are the extremes of the model, up here over 10 inches. The low end is 0, but the fact that you have several up here, not just one, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 that are above 10 inches or around 10 inches, you gotta be careful. That's why you gotta leave that window open, though. The most probable forecast is still down here around 1 to 2 inches, which I still think is running way too high. But just so you know, ensemble forecast here is trending up in the short range ensemble. So I showed this graphic earlier. This is the 1-inch probabilities. This is strictly built off of those ensembles. And when we get into Wednesday, we've got a 1% chance of snow on Tuesday night, but it's really Wednesday morning into Thursday morning. You see 2 areas of snow, one back to the west. The ensembles are hinting at overrunning, maybe with the Arctic front, possibly, and then that trough along the coast. There's a little hole here because there's actually 2 distinct areas that may have a higher probability of bringing in some snowfall. We'll go back to my GR Earth here, and I posted this earlier as well. I did want to show you a little more detail on this. This is the crazy European, or excuse me, the crazy NAM run from this morning. Usually it's the European going crazy. And you can see how ridiculous these totals are. 15 to 17 inches from around, Macon, just south of Macon, up to south of Augusta, and then into the low country of South Carolina, Myrtle Beach, and the eastern part of North Carolina. These totals are definitely overdone. One thing I can tell you about the NAM model, it always overdoes the QPF, or the amount of precipitation, but it does pretty well with the placement and the temperature profiles. So oftentimes we'll blend the profiles and the placement from the NAM and maybe take the QPF from a blend of the other models. And that's the key, folks. When you listen to forecast about this storm, blending of models, ensembles, patterns, trends, the big picture, not these little cut and piece snapshots of information. So right now, I'd say for sure, the Charlotte area, we're going to see a little bit of snow. The amount, I'm not comfortable saying a total. I think it's probably going to be less than an inch, maybe a half inch, if at all. But for sure, the further east you go, the chances of seeing measurable accumulating snow go up. I don't think we'll see the 12 inches here, but certainly somebody could check in with a 6 or 7 incher. That is certainly a possibility. Again, because this is such a tight gradient, a small change in the track or the low or the front, any of these moving pieces, I should say, will move the heavy snowfall back to the west or move it to the east. Remember, there's always two scenarios. It could always be more, but it could always be less. Don't think just, hey, it could be more. Sometimes the 0 probability is just as high as the 12-inch probability at the top. So I know this is kind of a long video, but I wanted to lay this out. I'll try to put some of these graphics below my video here in my post, but that's my thinking right now. If I had the snow meter out tonight and I was working, I may put it out. I would probably have it at a 2 right now just because of the social media buzz online. We're not going to creep it up probably till tomorrow to another range or creep it down, but right now, snow meter at a solid 2. Hope that helps. Please make sure you follow me on Facebook and Twitter. If you follow me on Facebook, make sure you go to my page. Don't look in your news feed. Only about 10% of you see my posts. Make sure you go to my page to see the latest. If you follow me on Twitter, please go back, look at my timeline. I post a lot of content. Sometimes you miss it. It's better to go back and read before you ask me a question I just answered 15 times in a row before you logged on. So please give it a chance to go look at some of that data before you check in with me. I'm always available on Twitter, usually Facebook second, and third, maybe email or Google+. Google+ is always a good spot to check out as well. Hope you have a great Sunday. I'll probably post something again maybe later tonight or early tomorrow. I'll be a lot shorter, but we'll keep this up to date as we get closer. And make sure you stay tuned to NBC Charlotte and WCNC.com for the latest on this potential winter storm.